Earlier this week, we found out that GPUs are getting a pretty massive MSRP increase, and believe it or not, yesterday there was a massive drop on Newegg of stock, and these GPUs already had the more expensive prices. Let's talk about what this means going forward and what you should do. Hey guys, Tiago here. Remember to smash that like button if you want to see more content like this. Some say smashing the like button may reduce some of the MSRP on these GPUs, but it's not guaranteed. Alright, so let's talk about what's going on here. Earlier this week, if you guys have been following the news online, I also did a few videos on this. The MSRP of GPUs are going up across the board. The first company that we learned this from is from Asus. They mentioned a variety of factors that are playing into the MSRP increase, of course, including all of the recent global issues we've had, not to mention this causing issues in logistics, manufacturing. They certainly mentioned many what we can say are official reasons that, logically make sense, but there's a lot more going on in the market, including an increased amount of demand, not only from the traditional gamer and enthusiast, but also we're seeing a massive amount of demand from mining and cryptocurrency due to the recent boom, something we haven't seen ever since a couple of years ago. So that's certainly playing a massive role into the situation that we're seeing now. So now I just wanted to address this MSRP increase, which it's a little bit unusual because the product really just came out a couple of months ago at the end of 2020. We're not talking about something that's been reintroduced or it's been a one-year product cycle. Literally, this came out in the fall, so we're barely a few months in, and to get a massive price increase like this, I think it should have been factored in earlier on. Of course, there are also tariffs at play here that recently expired, but I think it comes off a little bit disingenuous when something like a 3080 says it's an MSRP of $699, and that's used to a considerable amount to hype up these products, and then all of a sudden, after months of really bad availability for gamers, all of a sudden the price jacks up. So that I can see why many people would be upset, and even though there are definitely valid reasons why the prices are going up, I believe that the optics of everything that's going on and the communication to the consumer is really the main issue here. It really seems like the consumer is taking pretty much last place in terms of what they get as information, and basically they just get treated to these much more expensive prices. I think there definitely has to be a little bit better communication because people are already upset that they can't easily get a hand on these products, and when the MSRP keeps going up and up and they hear all these stories about miners buying cards and things like that, it really does leave a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth of consumers. We've had these massive worldwide issues ever since the beginning of 2020, and these GPUs with their lower MSRP were announced pretty close to the end of last year, so they certainly had time to plan out, and I think as soon as they saw that the demand was going to be absolutely massive, not only for gamers and enthusiasts staying home, but also the new cryptocurrency mining boom seems to be happening, I think that's really playing a massive role in these price increases, and the manufacturers really know that regardless of what the price is of these GPUs, and they did go up a fairly decent amount, consumers and miners are still going to buy these almost in bulk in the case of miners. I don't think this is going to really detract from the GPUs that are sold. Of course, it's going to price a considerable amount of people out of budget for many of these GPUs, and eventually when demand eventually catches up with stock, that's where we're going to see people not wanting to buy them because they're too expensive. But right now, these manufacturers certainly are taking advantage of this massive amount of demand in order to raise these prices to cover a lot of the costs that they are incurring with logistics and manufacturing. I just think it either should have been earlier, like when these GPUs were announced, they shouldn't have said, a 3080 is $699. Same thing goes for AMD. This is a problem for every component, pretty much, AMD and NVIDIA. They should have probably just come out with the much more expensive prices. That way, at least we wouldn't have the shock of it being lower and all of a sudden, a few months later, it raising up out of nowhere. It just seems like they're just latching on to all of the issues going on now to sort of justify this price increase. It definitely is because of the demand from gamers and miners, and they see that people are snapping these up not only from scalpers and overpaying, but anytime these hit sort of any type of like Newegg or Micro Center, they're pretty much gone within a few seconds and a few minutes. So this price increase is definitely not too welcome. It just seems to be a bit of an unfortunate surprise, pretty much dropped on the head of consumers and gamers. So what does that mean for stock and availability? Believe it or not, and this could just be coincidence, but this week we had some fairly major drops, and from Newegg yesterday yesterday, I saw various GPUs got restocked, and oddly enough, a lot of them did have this increased MSRP. A lot of the Asus GPUs that seemed very difficult to find before, like the 3080 Strix, even that white 3090 Strix, they came in stock yesterday. Some were available for, of course, a couple of seconds. People are still going to buy them up, but they came in stock at the increased MSRP. Even that white 3090 Strix was over $2,000. I mean, it's pretty close to what scalper prices were for 3090 pretty much when the GPUs came out. So prices have certainly gone up a considerable amount. The 3080s are pretty much near or over the $900 limit depending on the model. And of course, even if we look over for the AMD GPUs, the 6800 XT, I did see a couple available yesterday as well, like the Sapphire GPUs. They were extremely expensive as well. They're really getting up there to close to the $1,000 mark. Some are even over, such as the one that comes with the 240mm AIO. I saw it up for $1,079 for a 6800 XT. And remember how everybody got excited for a $999 6900 XT? Well, now a $1,500 3090 doesn't seem like as bad of a deal if some of these 3080s and 6800 XTs are already passing the $1,000 mark. So one of the main reasons that you can't simply go onto a website like Newegg or walk into a Micro Center and expect to find in stock one of the newer GPUs, it's because when they do come in stock, especially in a case like Newegg, there are various people with notifications on, people checking. So as soon as a GPU come in stock, let's say one of these new 3080s or a 6800 XT, you have people that almost instantly get the notification on their phone, whatever method that you're using. There are certain groups that are on Twitter, certain groups are on like Discord. So for the notifications for stock drops, they go almost immediately, and that many people going, you can bet that it's going to sell out very, very quickly. That's why if you're just casually going on one of these websites, the chances of you finding a GPU are going to be very, very low. Now, Newegg certainly got a lot of stock yesterday, and as we saw, these were with the increased MSRP prices. The question remains, now that the MSRP is higher, will more of these be available? Maybe because of the increased cost, are less people going to buy these GPUs? I still think they're going to be pretty readily sold out just because the demand truly is massive. And demand here, we're talking about not only gamers to satisfy the new gaming craze that's going on, but also specifically and probably even more detrimentally miners, because they like to buy bulk GPUs at a time. We saw that now infamous picture of 78 3080 GPUs on a mining farm. So these type of consumers, they have the same right as other people do at buying these products, but at the end of the day, it really becomes a little bit unfair to the individual gamer that just wants to use a new GPU for enjoyment. These are, after all, gaming cards. They're not first and foremost meant to be like business devices. That's what NVIDIA sells them at, and it seems like time and time again, the consumer, the gamer, and the enthusiast pretty much are in last place in regards to all of these changes that happened with higher prices, bad stock, and availability. So that's certainly a lot going on, and I'm not just saying NVIDIA here. AMD is pretty much just as much at fault. Remember, we thought we were going to have a nice stock supply of AMD GPUs, and it so happened that they seem to be even worse than NVIDIA at this point. Not to mention that their third-party AIB GPUs, even before the price hike, already had some pretty ridiculously expensive prices. Now, after the price hike, they seem to be pretty much not anything like was originally announced. When you're paying over $1,000 for a 6800 XT that had an MSRP of $649, where does that make sense? We're seeing premiums $250 to $400. We're seeing massive premiums of, $300 to $400 per GPU. This seems really, really, really high. It's not like we're talking about like a 2 to 3% difference that I think most people would have been fine with. We're talking about massive differences of hundreds of dollars. I think that's why people are getting a little bit more upset now. Not only that these things continue to be very difficult to find, but now when you do find them, you're going to have to pay significantly more for this pricing. So if this week is any indication, that was definitely a fairly substantial drop that I saw on Newegg of new stock. Maybe with this increased MSRP, maybe we'll see more GPUs out. Maybe that's gonna take some people out of the market because of pricing. So we're gonna have to wait and see. And Newegg wasn't actually the only place this week that had a pretty significant drop. Best Buy, and even a lot of my own viewers posted this, Best Buy seemed to get a pretty large amount of GPUs as well. A lot of people, Even some of my viewers posted that they were able to get 3080s and 3090s. It was definitely what appeared to be a fairly substantial amount this week. And of course, everything kind of coincided with the raise in MSRP. That's why it leaves everybody maybe a little bit upset that the timing had to be now. It would have been nice if the consumer had been given a lot more notice. I mean, all these logistic problems have been going on for months and months now. It's not like as soon as the new year happened, all of these problems came out of nowhere. So once again, communication from these companies to the consumer, I really think have to improve. That way, it just shows more respect for the consumers that are actually buying this product. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you like content like this, and I'll see you guys on the next video.